Have you ever witnessed a dispute between neighbors over something as simple as a fence line? Perhaps a disagreement over a shared driveway, or the branches of an old tree that hang over one property into another. These quarrels, while often petty, can simmer with a surprising intensity, fueled by personal pride and a fierce sense of ownership. Now, imagine scaling that conflict up to the level of nations. What happens when the fence is an international border, and the tree is not just any old landmark, but a magnificent 900-year-old temple, considered by many to be the very soul of their nation? Perched majestically atop a 722-foot cliff in the Dongrek Mountains, the Temple of Preah Vihear commands a breathtaking view of the Cambodian plains below. Its stone galleries, weathered by centuries of sun and monsoon rains, stretch along a dramatic north-south axis, a masterpiece of Khmer architecture dedicated to the Hindu deity Shiva. It is a place of profound spiritual significance, an architectural marvel that speaks to the glory of a bygone empire. Yet, for over a century, this sacred sanctuary has been the epicenter of one of Southeast Asia's most bitter and protracted territorial disputes, a flashpoint between Cambodia and Thailand that has erupted into political firestorms and even armed conflict. The story of Preah Vihear is far more than a simple argument over a line on a map. It is a complex saga of identity, history, and the long, complicated shadows cast by colonialism. It forces us to ask a fundamental question. How can a place of such divine beauty and shared heritage become a symbol of such deep-seated division? To understand the answer, we must journey back in time, to an era of great empires, to the drawing rooms of European cartographers, and into the solemn halls of international justice. Our story begins not with a dispute, but with an act of creation. In the 11th and 12th centuries, the Khmer Empire was at the zenith of its power, a civilization whose influence radiated across much of Southeast Asia. It was a time of monumental construction, driven by god-kings who sought to immortalize their reign and their faith in stone. The same monarchs who commissioned the awe-inspiring Angkor Wat, such as King Suryavarman I and his successor Suryavarman II, also oversaw the construction of Preah Vihear. Architecturally, stylistically, and spiritually, the temple is an undeniable progeny of the Khmer civilization. Its intricate carvings depict Hindu myths, its long causeways guide pilgrims on a spiritual ascent, and its very alignment is a testament to the cosmological beliefs that underpin the empire. For centuries, it stood as a remote but vital spiritual outpost, a testament to Khmer ingenuity and devotion. The seeds of conflict were sown much later, in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, an era when the map of Southeast Asia was being redrawn not by local kings, but by distant colonial powers. France had established a protectorate over Cambodia, effectively controlling its foreign affairs and borders. To the west, Siam, as Thailand was then known, was a proud, independent kingdom skillfully navigating the immense pressures of British and French expansionism, ceding territory to preserve its core sovereignty. It was in this geopolitical climate that the two powers sought to formally demarcate their shared frontier. A series of Franco-Siamese treaties, signed in 1904 and 1907, stipulated that the border along the Dongrek Mountains should follow the natural watershed linear, seemingly clear and logical principle. In mountain ranges, a watershed is the ridgeline from which water flows down on either side. In theory, anything on the southern slope would be Cambodian, and anything on the northern slope would be Siamese. However, the critical task of translating this principle into a physical map fell to a mixed commission led by French officers. The result was a map, later known in legal circles as the Annex I map, which was delivered to Siamese authorities. And on this map, the borderline was drawn in a way that deviated slightly from the true watershed, placing the entirety of the Preah Vihear temple squarely within the territory of French Cambodia. This single fateful stroke of a cartographer's pen would become the crux of a 100-year argument, a cartographical flaw that would one day be paid for in political acrimony and, eventually, in blood. For decades, the map and its quiet inaccuracy lay dormant. The world was consumed by larger conflicts, and in the remote jungle-clad mountains, the border was a matter of little daily consequence. But as the tide of colonialism receded in the mid-20th century and both Cambodia and Thailand emerged as fully sovereign nations, old questions of territory resurfaced with a new, nationalistic fervor. In 1954, following the withdrawal of French forces from the region, Thai troops occupied the temple, hoisting their national flag over its ancient stones. Diplomatic efforts to resolve the issue failed, and the dispute festered. Finally, in 1959, Cambodia, under the leadership of Prince Norodom Sihanouk, took the bold step of bringing the case against Thailand to the International Court of Justice, ICJ, in The Hague. The legal battle that ensued was a classic clash of principles. Thailand's argument was straightforward and logical. The 1904 treaty had explicitly stated the border was the watershed. The French-drawn map, they contended, was flawed and had been produced without Siamese participation in the final survey. Therefore, the map was invalid, and the true border remained the natural watershed, which would place the temple on the Thai side. They argued that the fundamental agreement between the states, the treaty text, should trump a faulty map created to illustrate it. Cambodia's case was more subtle. They did not heavily contest the geographical accuracy of the watershed line. Instead, their lawyers focused on the subsequent behavior of the Siamese Thai state. They argued that Thailand had received copies of the Annex I map decades earlier and had not only failed to register any formal protest to its contents, but had actively used and benefited from it in other contexts. Cambodian lawyers presented evidence that high-ranking Thai officials, including a prince, had paid official visits to the temple and had been received by French colonial authorities, implicitly acknowledging French, Cambodian jurisdiction. Their argument hinged on a powerful and well-established legal principle, qui tacet consentir videtur, or he who is silent is seen to consent. In international law, this is known as acquiescence. In 1962, the court delivered its landmark ruling. In a stunning victory for Cambodia, the judges largely sidestepped the thorny issue of whether the map was geographically accurate. Instead, they focused on Thailand's conduct over the preceding 50 years. The court concluded that by failing to object for so long, Thailand had, by its silence and its actions, accepted the border as depicted on the map. The Annex I map had thus become the binding basis for the frontier in the region. The verdict was clear. The temple of Preah Vihear belonged to Cambodia. The court ordered Thailand to withdraw its forces and return any artifacts it had removed. For a moment, it seemed international law had settled the matter for good. The court's decision was a cause for national celebration in Cambodia and a source of deep-seated resentment in Thailand. The Thai government complied with the ruling, withdrawing its troops and lowering its flag in a solemn ceremony. A sign was erected at the foot of the cliff on the Thai side, reading, "We are constrained to display the map showing the temple of Preah Vihear as belonging to Cambodia. We do so under protest." This set the stage for a decades-long awkward arrangement. While the temple itself was unequivocally Cambodian, the most practical and accessible entrance path led up the gentler slope from the Thai side of the border. For years, a fragile peace held. Tourists would often cross from Thailand, paying an entrance fee to Thai authorities for access to the area, and then another fee to Cambodian guards to enter the temple itself. It was a de facto compromise, a delicate dance of sovereignty that allowed for a semblance of normality. This uneasy truce was shattered in 2008. After years of effort, Cambodia succeeded in having Preah Vihear listed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. While a moment of immense pride for Cambodia, the designation ignited a political firestorm in Thailand. Fueled by nationalist groups and opportunistic politicians, a narrative took hold that the UNESCO listing, which focused solely on the temple structure, was a Trojan horse. They claimed it was a Cambodian ploy to assert sovereignty not just over the temple, but over a 4.6 square kilometer patch of surrounding land that Thailand still considered its own, an area the 1962 ICJ ruling had not explicitly addressed. The political rhetoric quickly escalated into a dangerous reality. Both countries reinforced their military presence along the disputed border. What had been a legal and diplomatic quarrel morphed into a full-blown military standoff. Between 2008 and 2011, the tranquil hills around the ancient temple became a battlefield. Soldiers on both sides exchanged rifle and artillery fire in a series of deadly clashes. The sound of explosions echoed through the stone galleries, and the temple itself sustained damage from shrapnel and stray bullets. It was a tragic and surreal spectacle. A World Heritage Site, a symbol of humanity's shared cultural achievement and spiritual aspiration, was now scarred by the very divisions it was meant to transcend. The sacred mountain had become a front line, and the ancient stones bore witness to a modern conflict born from an old wound. In the end, after further appeals to the International Court of Justice in 2013, clarified that the entire promontory of the temple belonged to Cambodia and called for a demilitarized zone, the guns fell silent. Today, the Temple of Preah Vihear still stands, a silent, stoic witness to both the heights of human creativity and the depths of our conflicts. The journey of this sacred site, from a center of spiritual worship for an ancient empire to a mark on a colonial map, to the subject of a landmark international court case, and finally, to a military flashpoint, offers a profound and sobering lesson. It teaches us that borders are more than just lines drawn on parchment. They are invisible lines etched into the hearts and minds of people, shaped by national pride, historical memory, and the often conflicting narratives we tell ourselves about who we are and what is ours. The Preah Vihear dispute reveals how the legacy of colonialism can create wounds that fester for generations, and how potent symbols of national identity can be wielded as tools for both unity and division. The temple is Khmer in its origin, yet its geography places it on a precipice between two nations, making it a shared space whether by choice or by fate. As we look upon this magnificent structure, we are left to ponder a question that extends far beyond the borders of Cambodia and Thailand. Can our shared human heritage, embodied in stone and art, ever truly serve as a bridge to heal old wounds, rather than a pretext to deepen them? How can nations move beyond the grievances of history to collaboratively preserve these irreplaceable treasures for all of humanity? Preah Vihear remains on its cliff, looking out over the plains, a timeless monument that has seen empires rise and fall. It stands as a powerful, silent challenge to our modern world, to find a path toward mutual understanding and to learn that the most important boundaries to overcome are not those on a map, but those that lie within ourselves,